What's going on, everyone? This is Kevin here, coming at you with my ZTE Blade A3 Prime review. So let's get started. So this is my review of the ZTE Blade A3 Prime. Now this device was recently launched about a month ago and is exclusive to Visible. So if you want to get this phone, you do have to get it from Visible and use it with Visible. But I know that Visible is getting more and more popular, more and more people are using it. So I think this video certainly applies to a lot of people out there. And for those of you that are not Visible customers, then you might still find this to be interesting because Visible is one of the last carriers to actually have ZTE devices. Now this phone is being offered right now for $99. Or you can get it for free if you swap in one of your older Android phones. So either way, I feel like it's pretty cheap and pretty affordable, and you'll see in this video whether or not it's worth it. Now with the phone, we're getting a decently large 5.45-inch display. Now the display is LCD, it is a 720p display, we're getting a PPI of 295, and we're getting an 18:9 aspect ratio. So kind of a more narrow but taller form factor, but not quite as much as some of the newer 20:9 aspect ratio phones. Now you probably noticed that the phone does feature more of an old school design. We do not have a notch, there's no hole punch either for the front facing camera. And another thing that's more and more rare nowadays is squared off corners on the display. So we do have thicker bezels though on the top and bottom, but in general, I don't mind that it features kind of an older looking design because I feel like in general, it is a very practical design. Now the front-facing camera is 5 megapixels, and stay tuned to later on in the video as I show you photo and video samples from it. Now with the phone, we're getting 32 gigs of internal storage, and that's decent. I would say for a $99 phone, that is completely acceptable. If the phone was more expensive, like around $200, then at this point in 2020, I would say that we really should be getting 64 gigs, but 32 gigs at a $99 price tag is totally fine. Now, of that 32 gigs, you do get 20 gigabytes available, so the OS and all the pre-installed applications do take up 12 of the 32 gigabytes. Now, the good news is that you can add a microSD card to the phone, and you can increase the storage by up to 2 terabytes. If you do end up buying this phone, then I do recommend getting a microSD card because that will help you a lot with managing your storage. So with the device, we do have a fingerprint sensor on the back, and it works decently well. Maybe not the fastest fingerprint sensor ever, but it works well enough that it is completely usable. Now, in addition to that, this device does support Face Unlock, which is another nice bonus. Now, also on the back of the device, we have an 8 megapixel camera, and there is just one camera here, as you can see. We do actually have dual flash on the back of the phone, which is pretty rare. I don't see that too often at all. So if you are someone that uses the flash on your device quite often, then I think you're definitely going to like the ZTE Blade A3 Prime. Now with this device, we're getting 2 gigabytes of RAM, and we're getting the MediaTek Helio A22. Now 2 gigs of RAM is a little low. I would have liked to see 3, even at this price tag, because that does make a considerable difference. Now unfortunately, I was not able to do a benchmark test with the phone. I simply couldn't get the app to work with the device. I'm not sure why, but with that being said, from my experience of using the phone, it's going to be fast enough for a decent chunk of people out there, and especially for the price of the device, I think it is plenty fast. But again, with 2 gigabytes of RAM, you might run into some issues if you are someone who often switches between one app and another. But if you are someone that does more basic tasks like phone calls, which are really good on here by the way, and text messages, and occasional social media, then I think the performance of this device will be plenty adequate. Now with the phone, we're getting 1080p video recording. Also with the device, we do have a removable battery. So that's something that is pretty rare nowadays as well. So I will take the back of the phone off to show you. Another good thing too about this device is that it is very easy to remove the back, whereas compared to other phones I've used in the past, that can sometimes be a bit difficult. I know that there's some phones that I've tested previously where I actually caused damage to the cover on the back of the phone when trying to take it off. Now thankfully with this device that is simply not an issue. So we do get a removable battery with the phone, and it is a 2660 milliamp hour battery. So that's not really a lot of battery capacity, and And I've already mentioned this in previous videos about the device, but I know that some people are going to mention that you could always get multiple batteries and swap them out, which generally is one of the benefits of having a removable battery. But on the other hand, I don't really know of where you can even buy additional batteries for this phone. So if you can't find a place to buy them, then I feel like the ability to swap batteries isn't really useful, because you do need to have at least 2 batteries to do that. But if you do find somewhere where you can buy multiple batteries, then let me know in the comment section below and I will pin that. But you can see also on the back, we have the SIM card slot and then the micro SD card slot as well. So nice that we are getting those things. Now the software here on the phone is Android 10, and it is a very stock variant of the software. I like that ZTE and Visible don't really put any bloatware on the phone either. Like I mentioned, I did install a variety of my own applications on here. But when you do take it out of the box and set things up, you're pretty much getting a pure Google experience here with the phone. So that's really fantastic. Definitely glad that they're doing that, because I know often with very low-end devices like this one, you often get a lot of pre-installed apps. So I'm perfectly happy and glad that we don't get that. Now the software is Android 10. It is possible that it could get Android 11 in the future. I know that many of these ZTE devices do actually have, surprisingly, a reputation of getting at least one major software update, which I feel like is completely acceptable, especially for a phone in this price range. And in many ways, that might actually be more than what I'd expect. Now, taking a closer look at the hardware here, in general, I feel like the display is decently nice. It gets plenty bright, and 720p on here is not a problem either. Again, when you look at it, you don't think that it's a low quality display, because it's not. But again, it's perfectly usable. Now taking a look at the left side of the phone, we have nothing. Then on the right, we have the power button and volume button. Then on the top, we have the 3.5mm headphone jack and noise canceling microphone. Now I would have preferred to have the headphone jack on the bottom versus the top. I feel like it's just easier to use when it's on the bottom, but it is what it is, and I don't really think it's necessarily a deal breaker. Then taking a look at the bottom of the phone with the microphone, and we have the USB-C port for charging and data transfer. And then on the back of the device, we have the camera module, we have the fingerprint sensor, ZTE logo, and then the speaker. And this material on the back of the device is actually pretty decent. I like how it doesn't pick up any fingerprints. Now, it doesn't necessarily feel high-end by any means, but again, I like how it doesn't pick up fingerprints and generally looks pretty decent. To my understanding as well, I don't think there's really too many places where you can get a case for this phone. Now, after I post this video, there might be some options that come up, but if you do end up getting this phone, just assume that there's not going to be any cases available, or if there are, then you're going to have very limited options. But for a phone that's $99, I feel like having a case isn't quite as important anyway, because you didn't even pay a whole lot for the phone to start with. Now here is the box that the phone does come in, a pretty typical ZTE box, and these are the various items that come included, of course, in addition to the actual phone itself. So we have a quick start guide here for the phone, we have a USB-C port for charging and data transfer, and by the way, I already talked about the USB-C port on the bottom of the phone, but that's another thing that you don't see too often with devices in this price range. So I am really happy as well that we are getting USB-C with the phone. And then finally, we do get the wall adapter here. So you get all the essentials that you need in the box. There are no headphones, but that's okay. Apps like Instagram are gonna run completely fine here on the phone. You can see that scrolling is actually pretty smooth as well. And pinch to zoom works well too. Now you can swipe over, you can record your own stories here with the phone, and things work nice and smoothly. So they're nice there. We'll discard that. Then you can go up to the top here. You can then play those stories. So in general, things work nice and smoothly here with the phone. So you're going to get the actual hotspot itself. I'm going to put this off to the side for a second though. You're going to get your T-Mobile SIM card. You're going to get a USB-C cable. So there you go. So video looks pretty decent here on the phone. You are, of course, limited at 720p for the video since the display itself is 720p, but YouTube works completely fine. The speakers are not necessarily the best here on the device, as you'd expect for a phone in this price range, and then with it mounted on the back, that doesn't help too much either. But in general, it is usable. You can watch videos on here and it's not gonna bother your ears or anything like that, but definitely the speaker is not quite as good as a more expensive phone would be. I feel like the camera quality with this phone is completely acceptable for a device in this price range. On the other hand though, It certainly isn't anything too special. Considering that this phone is very inexpensive, it's gonna get the job done. You're gonna at least be able to take photos that are good enough to share on social media and save to your various memories, whether you're going on vacation or getting together with family, whatever you're doing, you're gonna be able to take good enough photos to preserve those memories. Same goes for the front-facing camera. It's good enough. Again, nothing too special, but still pretty decent. But let's now take a look at some video samples from the phone. What's going on, everyone? This is Kevin here, coming at you with a test video from the ZTE Blade A3 Prime. This is one of their latest budget smartphones. We do have autofocus in video mode, which is very awesome. A little bit slow, but it is there. Let me know what you think of the video quality as well as the audio quality. What's going on, everyone? This is Kevin here, coming at you with a test video using the front-facing camera with the ZTE Blade A3 Prime. Now, it is very bright and sunny out today, so I'm trying to stay in the shade, so keep that in mind. But yeah, let me know what you think of the quality. You can see now that I'm out in the sun, definitely going to be a little bit overexposed here, so definitely being in the shade makes things a bit better. So in conclusion, is the ZTE Blade A3 Prime worth buying? I definitely feel like for $99, it is a decent phone. It does have quite a few features that I do like. First thing is that I like that we're getting 32 gigs of internal storage. That's not bad for a phone in this price range. I like that we're getting a pretty decent looking large display. I like that we're getting USB-C. I also like that we're getting a fingerprint sensor on the back. So in general, yeah, it has a lot to offer for the price, and it's certainly a very usable phone that will get the job done for a decent portion of people out there. So it's certainly not a waste if you buy it, but on the other hand, there's certainly a lot of extra benefits when you pay more money for higher end devices. Even if you spent a little bit of extra and you got the Galaxy A51, for example, it's going to be a day and night difference when it comes to your user experience. But that is to be expected. But for the price, I feel like it's a good option. ZTE did a pretty good job, and I'm looking forward to seeing what the company does next. But I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up, and I will see you in the next one.